A proverb a day makes the folly go away. Proverbs 12:4. You're about to get on me again. An excellent wife is the crown of her husband, but she who brings shame is like rottenness in his bones. Oof. That one's a little shaky. That kind of cuts in the soul. Women, let me know in the comments. Does that cut the soul? That would cut the soul for me if I was a man. Cause it's and it really just depends on if you care about the other person. Like you're literally the decay in your spouse's bones. How would you feel if that's all you've been? And one can say that's a lot of weight on the women. And then what about the men? I mean, yeah, the men, we still have our issues that we have, and we still have our commitments that we have and our accountabilities that we have. And it says so in Ephesians 5:25. We still have our responsibility, and it's a heavy responsibility. But honestly, if we look at it, the men have to love and sacrifice for their wives as Jesus loved the church. And Jesus sacrificed his life for the church. He sacrificed his life for everybody. And so we have to sacrifice everything for our wives. We have to give ourselves up for our wives, or we have to give up any X amount of thing for our wives. And wives, you just have to submit to your husbands. Submit. So if you can't submit and you become rottenness, decayness in their bones, all you have to do is submit, and you're causing issues. That means something. That means something. And it's interesting because while times have changed, clearly times have changed, roles, gender roles, I guess, is still an interesting conversation depending on who you're talking to. Feminism and even like just the fact that, especially in America, a lot of households require two people, even those that had a decent income before. Now, with the way that the times are and the economy is nowadays, a lot of houses are now requiring both men and women to be working. And in some cases, the female may be making more money than the male. Even though these type of times have changes, the character remains timeless. A spouse's integrity, wisdom, and support will always strengthen or weaken the partner. Whether in ancient Israel or modern America, these things remain true to this day. And I'm not going to get too deep into my relationship, but there was a point where I felt my wife, like when we were dating, not while we were married. While we were dating, there was definitely points where I felt that she was definitely decaying my bones. There was just as much as I was trying to do, there was still constant nagging and complaining and like this and that. And it was just like, just dread. But I knew that she just didn't see things that the way that I saw where we were going and where we were moving towards and what I was trying to work for and work towards. We were unequally yoked at that part. And it took time and patience to get to where we are now, to where she does give me the support. She does even provide me with wisdom. She helps grounds me and even help change me just by looking at her. When I've fed off of her great characteristics as I see her feeding off of mine. And the integrity of her staying true to what it is that she's saying. And then when she says something that is in conjunction with whatever it is that I say, she stands 10 toes down on it. This is the type of relationship that we should be seeking for. Not saying that my relationship is a perfect relationship. No. But when it comes to marriages, when it comes to being a spouse, when it comes to supporting your husband, holding them accountable, and just being that guide, being that aid that women were put on this earth to be for their husbands, then they become the crowns that the man wears delightfully and not be the decay in the man's bones. Now, when we get back into the verse, we can say that rottenness in the bones, decaying in the bones, is invisible and devastating when we think about it, because nobody's going to know that your bones are decaying unless like you got some weird walk, or for some reason like your arm seems a little, I don't know, indented or whatever the case may be. but it's not naturally physical in most cases. And a lot of times when we're married to a woman, we have issues. The women sometimes may be bringing, and again, I'm not going to put this just fully on women. This is also on men as well. But because we're talking about women in the verse, and because they're here to help aid, they can easily, the way that our bones are our means of moving around, and our bones is what supports anytime we're holding something heavy. It's our muscles as well, but our bones that help keep it up. When we have decayness in our bones, then we can't hold anything up. We can't be any type of support. And when women are supposed to be our support and they're decaying our bones, then whatever we're holding up is gonna fall down. And when we talk about that decay, it a lot of times comes in terms of like betrayal, dishonor. Let's see, doing things behind the husband's back that they're unaware of, being unequally yoked. That alone can cause decay in the bones, because a husband's trying to go in one direction, but the woman is trying to go in a completely different direction. Therefore, we're moving and we're not going anywhere because we're both have our yokes. I'm right here, my wife is right here, and we're bound together by the yoke, and we're trying to go in different directions and we're not going anywhere. We're not. And as a men in the house, we're supposed to be the ones that's supposed to lead the family in a direction, lead the family towards God, and thus be able to do things in this earth that's going to be astronomical, because this is what God has us to do, whether it be astronomical for one person or for thousands of people. We are put on this earth to do something, but at the end of the day, we're always put on this earth to give God the glory. If the man and the woman are not on the same page, this is when we have issues. Now, even if we're talking in a non-biblical sense, if a man is trying to do one thing and a woman is trying to do another thing over here, and they're not on the same page, this is how we have issues. This is how we have arguments. This is how we have agreements. This is how we end up in divorces. It's as simple as that. Differences in money, differences in morals, differences in values, differences on how we raising the kids, differences on when we're going to sleep, differences on when we are allowed to go out, differences on who we hang out with. All these things, when we have heavy differences, I'm not saying we got to be the exact on absolutely everything, but if there's not a ground basis for us to go off of equally, then that's where issue starts to come up. And just going back to the verse, I think that impartially comes from the female being able to submit to the husband. There could be an agreement. Yes. Just like everything, every time we have a conversation, every time me and my wife have a conversation, we talk things out, and we have conversations. At the end of the day, I make the final decision on how we're going to move. We talked. If anybody's opinion matters, it's going to be my wife's over anybody else's. If anybody else brings in a suggestion, a thought, then I'll bring it up with my wife, and then we'll talk about it. But at the end of the day, I make the final decision. But my final decision will always come in part of making sure that my wife is being considered, because I'm supposed to protect her. I'm supposed to sacrifice. I'm supposed to love her. But she has to submit. So when she doesn't submit, now everything that I'm trying to do becomes more difficult. Everything that I'm trying to hold up becomes heavier, because now my bones are being decayed. Now, the interesting thing when it comes to this verse, some people may feel, well, what does this mean for those that are single? Well, interestingly enough, I keep saying Proverbs. Apostle Paul actually mentions how it's a gift to be single, because this is the time where you can dedicate your life to God. It is a blessing to find a mate. It is a blessing to be married, to have a family, and to have kids. It is also a blessing to be single, because now you can put in your focus and your time on God. The thing that happens is that you can still put your time and focus on God when you have a family, but the problem is you put all that time, then you what's that word I'm looking for? Then you ignore the blessing that God has given you, which is the family, which is the kids, which is the wife that's supposed to be your support. And now she's not being your support. The wife that you're supposed to love as God loved the church. So meanwhile, while you're doing God's work, you still have to love your family. So you can't give your all of your energy to God without making sure that your family is taken care of and that you're guiding them and that you're leading them so that they can then be blessings to other people. When you're single, you can do that. When you're single, you can be at church all night, all day. When you're single, you could be at every event that people got and be blessings to them and spread the gospel with them. When you're single, you can, lead all the Bible studies and, talk to other people and like have all these dinners and outings with people just to, grow with them and disciple them. When you can do all these things is different. When you're married and you have kids, I have no time. People, I got no time. Learn from me. But in all honesty, it's not the end of the world if you're still single. You still have a purpose, you still have life, and we still have the Great Commission to go and disciple everybody. That still applies to you. So you have your mission, same as the married people have their mission. They just have more that they have to deal with because now they're conjoining into one and they have to figure that out and not be decaying and not be the rottenness in the bones. Now, here's a here's a question that you could probably ask your spouse, because again, this could go on both ways. I don't want anybody to get in trouble, but these are serious questions that need to be asked because you have to know what's going on in the mind of your spouse. You guys are conjoined as one. You came together as one. You decided to get married. Why is it that you don't know what's going on in your wife's head? Or at least don't assume that you know what's going on in your wife's head. So the question I would like everybody to ask their spouse is, would you say that I, being you, am like a crown on your head, or am I the rottenness in the bones? See what your spouse says. Don't react, just see what they say. And then on a personal level, how is it that I can change myself so that I can be a crown, maybe not only to my spouse, but to other people, and not be a source of hidden decay? Y'all let me know in the comment section what y'all think. I'm going to catch you on the next one. Take it easy. Peace.